Welcome to our program, Astronomy for Everyone. About a year ago, we had a program that highlighted the renovation of the Hector J Robinson Observatory, located on the grounds of Lincoln Park Junior High School. And at that time, we promised to bring you further news and updates about the observatory, and well, that time has come. With me in the studio today are three gentlemen associated with the observatory. First, Dr. Tim Day, then Greg Knechlian, and to my immediate left, David Oakley. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. We're going to cover a number of different areas and have some questions for each of my guests to hopefully bring you up to date with the latest news. First off, we'll talk to Dr. Tim Day. Tim, it's been a year since the renovation and reopening of the observatory. What's been going on?
In the year that's taken place since we had our big dedication ceremony, what has largely been going on can be broken into two parts. The first part is that we've begun to invite as many students and visitors into the facility as we can reasonably arrange. And a great many students and scouts and members of the general public have had the opportunity to come in and begin to get a sense for exactly what it is we've managed to build here and are beginning to make use of it. And that's really something that makes me very happy to be aware of.
It's good to hear that the observatory is getting some use. Is there anything new inside the observatory?
There is indeed. In addition to a brand new alarm system for the whole observatory put in by Lincoln Park Schools, thanks to the largesse of club members such as Greg, we've begun to accumulate additional equipment, things like iPads and extra eyepieces and new monitors in which it's possible for people to look at what the telescope sees without actually even peering through the eyepiece itself. It lets more people into the observatory and lets them look at a screen. An example of a tool that Greg recently provided to the observatory is a very fine camera. It's a video camera like the ones in a Canon camera or a Nikon camera. And where the eyepiece would normally go in a telescope, you have this camera, and this tube has a very, very sensitive chip inside, and you slide it into place, and a cable connects to it, and it runs out and goes to the computer or to a monitor or even to the internet. And it allows people to see on a TV screen inside the observatory or even on a computer monitor in their own home potentially what it is that we're looking at when we're seeing through the telescope. In addition to that, it's a wonderful toy because it allows us to see things that are far too faint if we were just to peer through the eyepiece with our naked eye. So it's very, very sensitive and makes the most out of the telescope equipment that we do have there. So
very interesting, Tim.
Yeah, this sort of a thing is really taking off and making it a wonderful place to come and observe.
Great. Now, Greg, you've been handling a lot of the programs, working with the people who come to the observatory. How busy has it been?
It's been busy, but it's not very busy when I'm there all the time at night. Sometimes I'm there and there's not a lot of people. At times there's scout groups coming in, or the teacher will bring in students. So it depends on the amount of people that will be visiting at the time. Sometimes I have heard that there's hundreds of students that have gone through actually, but that is during the day, solar observing. So actually every sixth grader in the Lincoln Park High School system has gone to the observatory. And that was done with Leo McMaster. He brought them all through, and they have a solar scope now so they can look at the sun, which we didn't have in the old days. I used to be in the observatory back in the old days before it was restored. I used to be in the Astronomy Club back in Huff Junior High. So we only had a couple sponsors there, and just whoever would show up would show up. And they used to bring people through. They used to bring kids through back in the old days. Well, now they're doing that again. So, but right now all the sixth graders have been brought through, and scouts have gone through. And the scout master that we're going to have here today, there was another scout master that came through one day, and he had 20 or 30 kids with him, and there were about 10 other kids that came and showed up. And sometimes kids just drop in, so it's pretty exciting.
That's great. So there's some excitement in the community. People just make use of this great opportunity.
Yep. And sometimes just somebody's just jogging on the track, and they'll walk up, and it might be somebody who's just recently graduated or an older person too. So we welcome anybody. if the observatory is open, they can just come on in. And also I have a blog, an observing blog, that I put usually announcements when I'm out there. So if people, I usually tell people to visit, I tell them my blog address and they can check. It's just my own observing blog, but there'll be more official blogs and webpage announcements out too in the future.
That's good, to let folks know of what's going on at the observatory. Sitting next to me is Dave Oakley, Troop Master of Troop 1052 in Allen Park. Dave, how has this facility helped scouting?
After the boys read an article in the Lincoln Park Board of Education, they were intrigued by the astronomy being restored. And as I drove by it, being a Lincoln Park resident, it just looked beautiful. And so I was excited myself. So the Boy Scout program has an astronomy merit badge where they have to learn different constellations, 5 different moon craters and sea names, and then they track the moon phase for 30 days. So by utilizing the Robinson Observatory, the boys went there and we looked at the Horsehead Nebula as part of the Orion star, which was quite visible that night. And fortunately for us, the skies opened up and we got to see a half moon and the edge of the craters on it that evening. And it was fascinating with the Ford Astronomy guide that we had to share the computer screen, and how the computer screen, he would move his mouse, then the motor would operate, turn that telescope into the direction. And it was just fascinating. And they did a great restoration job.
Now, Greg, you mentioned some other scout groups have been in. Do you have a feel for how many different troops or even Cub packs that may have come to the observatory?
I've heard that 5 or 6 have gone through so far, which isn't necessarily a lot of troops, but that was a few months ago, so I haven't had an update. So there may be more, but I do know that we want to be able to utilize and bring a lot of scout troops through, because that's a really good thing, to be able to bring them in and have that as an asset for the community.
Absolutely. Dave, any plans with your troop in the future to utilize the Robinson Observatory?
At the Downriver District roundtable meetings where all the leaders meet from the area, I've impressed upon them that they ought to take advantage of this technology and this excellent observatory right in our local neighborhood.
That's great.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, this has been an interesting conversation, and if you have a question or would just like to learn more information, please visit our website. You can see that address down at the bottom of your screen. And right after this public service announcement, we'll be right back with more of this exciting conversation. Don't go away.
In 1985, while polio was paralyzing 1,000 children a day, Rotary International committed to a goal of ending polio worldwide. Very soon now, after immunizing over 2 billion children, the goal will be achieved. Eradicating polio worldwide, that is humanity in motion. That is Rotary.
Welcome back. We're continuing now with our discussion on the update show of the Hector J Robinson Observatory in Lincoln Park. Now, Tim, as you look ahead to the future, what opportunities and even challenges do you see?
One of the opportunities and challenges that I see is that I would like to fully make use of the potential to take the signal that we can capture using a camera such as this one from the telescope and put it into a computer which is already in the dome, and then take the information from that computer and run it into the classrooms so that the kids don't even have to go outside when it's especially cold, or they can potentially see it from their homes at night as part of an assignment. I would love to see that potential, to see the information even disseminated to people who sign into the Lincoln Park website, the school website, so that we can have whatever we're looking at that night. It could be as few as just, Greg or myself there, but as long as we've got a camera hooked up and we're connected to the internet, the general public and the students and people, if you can connect to the internet, literally, you would be able to see what we're seeing with the telescope at the same time. That's a technical accomplishment that we're fairly close to realizing, and I would love to achieve that in the not too distant future. I would love to see the art department at the high school have the kids come out with the art teacher and do some graphics on the outside of the building. Right now it's like a blank canvas. I would love to see the Lincoln Park logo go up and some stars and moons and all that sort of stuff. So those are two items that I would love to see come to fruition in just the next few months if it's possible.
That would be great. Now, Greg, have the schools been actively involved? Of course, I don't know if you're there during the day to be a part of that, but any feel for that?
Yeah, the schools are going to hopefully be more actively involved. Having introduced all the sixth graders to the observatory, hopefully there'll be more interest and people will be able to have an outlet to be able to, have their interest in the observatory met. The problem is, right now that I see is we may need an astronomy club or something like a club or more teachers involved. So it's a tough thing for after school assignments for a long period of time to come out at night. And that's what makes the internet a nice option, because if they're trying to have some kind of assignment or something, are they able to bring out teachers with the students all the time at night? Because we can't have students coming out and just walking up to FAAC members, and we're not holding classes out there, so the teachers have to come along. So there's a thing about that. The other thing is Leo, who's involved in the school system, has been in the junior high. He's moving to the high school, so now we're going to have probably more interest from the high school students, where they're going to have a more direct link into the observatory. So that's going to be interesting. It may change our focus slightly too on how we use the observatory.
Well, hopefully we can keep the junior high school kids interested. As you mentioned, the sixth graders from the previous year has gone through. If we can keep bringing those sixth grade students in, each year they graduate higher and higher. They'll be into the high school, and actually this sounds like a great opportunity for the Ford Amateur Astronomy Club to work closely with the Lincoln Park schools to help nurture an astronomy club, or to provide certain assistance that perhaps the teachers there are a bit uncomfortable with because they don't have that particular type of training, where we as amateurs have a bit more experience in that area. Do you think something like that would help?
Yeah, I think the goal is to have the resources available. We want to be able to just provide the expertise and resources for the direction that the students would end up wanting to take with astronomy. In the old days, we would have, the new students would have like an orientation, and they'd bring them in to the observatory and they would tell them there was an astronomy club. They'd just say, there's an astronomy club if you want to join it. And the students, they'd introduce them to the president of the old club, and the president of the old club would say hi, and then they could come to the president and join the club or whatever, decide they want to go to the meetings. So we've kind of lost that continuity because there is no junior high astronomy club. When the new school was built, the old school was gone, the club was gone because it was a junior high club. So with that lack of continuity, we're just waiting for that time when a club forms either in the junior high or the senior high, or however the students want to utilize it, basically, from that perspective.
Something to look forward to in the future, yeah. I'm sure. Now, Dave, you mentioned earlier that you're a Lincoln Park resident. Living in the city, what do you think that the renovation of this facility has meant to the citizens of Lincoln Park?
I think it's a sense of pride for all the students or adults that may still be in the community if they actually worked on polishing the glass back in the day. And they have an opportunity, if they don't know that much about the universe and stars and see meteor showers, to go over there and utilize this facility. I think it's great.
Good. Well, gentlemen, any closing comments that you'd like to share with our audience? Tim, why don't you start?
I have been pleased to speak with the new acting superintendent of Lincoln Park Schools, Mr. Richard Rockwell, and he is very enthusiastic about helping us to accomplish all of the goals that we've been talking about this evening, including the technological ones, as well as increased usage and formation of clubs at both the middle school and high school level, and very much continuing to bring in the scouts to make as much use of the observatory as possible. And so I just wanted to acknowledge his enthusiasm and thank him for his support.
Right.
Excellent.
Thanks, Tim. Greg?
It's a very fun place to be if you like astronomy, and even if you don't, just come on out, check it out, take a look. You'll be surprised what you can see through the telescope, and we'll give you a tour. We'll have something for you. We'll have some other telescopes maybe also. If we have a larger group, sometimes we bring on extra telescopes for the scouts, so they don't have to always just wait and stand there in line. So we have something different all the time to show people that astronomy is exciting.
Good. Dave?
I think all the scout groups, and all groups for that matter, whether it's church groups, youth groups, Girl Scouts, communities, they can go there and schedule it with the Astronomy Club and just have a ball. And the boys have an opportunity to earn astronomy merit badge, and there's even space exploration too, where they launch model rockets. So they could really get into this.
How cool is that?
That's cool.
I'd like to thank all of my guests today for being on the show, Dr. Tim Day, Mr. Greg Knechlian, and Mr. David Oakley. If you have a question for us, want to know more about the observatory, or if you have a suggestion for a future show, please send us an email. You can see our address down there at the bottom of the screen. And right after this list of upcoming events, we'll be back with Term of the Month with Steve Whitting.
Is meteor. So what is a meteor? Another term for meteor is a shooting star. But meteors are not shooting stars. They're not stars at all. They're, we call them shooting stars. A meteor is usually a grain of sand. It's that size anyway. And it hits the Earth's atmosphere really fast. Now, what makes the meteor glow? A lot of people say that a meteor glows from friction, but it's not really true. What's happening is the grain of sand hits the atmosphere, and the air doesn't have time to get out of the way from in front of this grain of sand, and it compresses. And when you use a bicycle pump to pump up a tire, the pump gets hot, and that's because when the air compresses, it gets hotter. Well, the air in front of the little grain of sand gets really hot, and it glows white hot. And that's what makes a meteor glow. Back to you, Don.
Thanks, Steve. As part of our Robinson Observatory program, one of my guests, Greg Knechlian, has provided us with a video of activities in and around the Robinson Observatory. I'd like to take this time to have you take a look at it. Enjoy.
We're going to take a quick look at the observatory, which is behind me, and a setup right now. We're just testing the Stellacam, so let's go and check it out. As you can see, this is the observatory. We're approaching it. It was a sunny day. Look at the setup we have right now that we're testing. What we're testing is the Stellacam camera, and that camera is right now on the back of a white light filter Meade telescope. And we also are using this solar telescope to look at the sun, but right now the sun is down. So we're taking a look at that right now.
We hope you enjoyed that video clip on the Robinson Observatory. And now for What's Up for November's skies, here's Steve
What's
Woody.
up in the night sky for November 2010? Well, we have the moon as usual, and the phases of the moon this month are on the weekends. On Saturdays, starting with Saturdays, the new moon, which you won't see because we're looking at the dark side of it, is on the 6th of November. The first quarter is then on the 13th. The full moon is on the 21st, and finally the last quarter, or the third quarter, is on the 28th, which is a Sunday. In the evening, just after sunset, and where the sun actually sets, so that's in the west, we have the planets Mars and Mercury. They're very close to the horizon, and Mercury is only visible at all in the second half of the month. So Mercury is better late in the month. It's getting farther from the sun as the month goes on, and Mars is getting closer to the sun as the month goes on. So, in fact, Mars and Mercury cross on the 24th of the month. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune are all visible in the evening, and they set really quite late. Jupiter sets starting at the month at 3:30 and at the end of the month 1:30. It always gets earlier. Uranus sets at 4 a.m. and then at 2 a.m. at the end of the month, and then Neptune sets at 1 a.m. at the beginning of the month and 11 a.m. Toward the end of the month. On the 13th, the moon is near Neptune. You'll need fairly large binoculars or a telescope to find Neptune. Uranus is normally not naked eye visible. I have seen it naked eye, but it can be tough to find. It's near Jupiter, and that can be handy, but I still recommend binoculars or a telescope to really nail it down. Saturn is a morning object. It rises about 2 hours before sunrise, which is about 5 a.m. So if you're a morning person, that's a good thing. And Venus is also a morning object in the latter half of the month. It's really close to the horizon, though, so that's going to be tough, maybe next month. November hosts the Leonid meteor shower. The Leonid meteor shower has very bright meteors, and that's because the particles from, and this is the comet, 55P Tempel-Tuttle. Anyway, the comet spreads debris out along its entire orbit, and as the Earth crosses through the debris stream, we get these little meteors. Tempel-Tuttle was last in the inner solar system in 1998, so it's been a few years, and they're predicting something like 10 or 20 per hour. But because the particles hit the Earth's atmosphere very fast, 160,000 miles per hour. That's about 71 kilometers per second. You can imagine 71 kilometers in 1 second. I can't. They hit the Earth's atmosphere very fast, and so they get very hot. They become very bright. So you may be able to see them despite the waxing gibbous moon. And the waxing gibbous moon sets around 2 to 3 a.m. local time. So the Leonid meteor shower is like Saturn. It's a better morning show. Meteor showers are can be great and can be much better in the morning, that is after midnight, after local midnight, because then you're on the part of the Earth that is plowing into the debris stream rather than having the meteor sort of come to us. So that's pretty much what's up in the night sky for November 2010. It's time to get up and start observing.